Alright, with Sonic Movie 3 coming out, and with Movie 3 getting a trailer around the corner, I want to address something. And that being, what in the world is our plan for the next 3 movies? Because, obviously, knowing Paramount, they want to make an entire cinematic universe off of this franchise, and while I'm not a huge fan of that, we kind of don't really have anything we can do to stop it. So, let's plan this out. What's going to be the big picture for the next 3 Sonic movies? But before I start, I need to address some things. And certain concerns I feel like won't change. Such as the human characters, which, a lot of people want human characters to straight up have like only 10 minutes of screen time or whatever, but I feel like that's not going to happen. It's just really unrealistic, and human characters will still be really relevant, but I think that maybe we could make it so that way they're slowly more and more out of the picture as each movie goes on. Next of all, I've seen people say that maybe Eggman could, like, not be the main villain of the next trilogy, which, that's completely unrealistic, and that is not how it works at all. Like, Eggman is gonna stay the villain, okay? Next of all, we want to avoid the MCU's problem of oversaturation, so we're gonna make this trilogy sort of easy to dive into. Like, you don't really need to see the previous trilogy to understand what's going on here. You don't have to really see the last 3 movies. And lastly, for the concerns, every single character that will be mentioned here will be in character. So no, Amy won't be some sort of cool warrior. She will be silly, like, I think Sonic Movie 4 will adapt Sonic CD with some elements of Sonic Heroes. And Sonic Movie 5 will adapt Sonic Adventure with, again, some Sonic Hero elements. And lastly, Sonic Movie 6 will adapt Heroes with setup for riders. Sonic Movie 4 will keep most of the major plot points of Sonic CD, and not only that, but I'm gonna make a pretty big change right off the bat. Little Planet is actually hidden, like, underneath Neverlake. Like how the Master Emerald had its, like, own temple. Think of that, but to a more extreme degree. Eggman tries to steal the water from Neverlake in order to, I don't know, do something. You can come up with that. But he actually ends up discovering and unveiling Little Planet, and that doesn't mean that all of the stages will be adapted. Unfortunately, we actually don't even have the time to adapt all the stages, and most of this movie is spent exploring the different pasts and futures. And in general, that brings me to the main conflict. The main conflict of the movie is how Eggman is kind of messing up the future. And, in fact, one of the futures will actually look just like Silver's future. Now, the movie's main side plot will be Rouge meeting up with Shadow. Yep, we're gonna bring Rouge into this. I had to come up with a reason for Rouge to actually even come to Earth, and this was really hard to do. I couldn't really come up with a great reason, and this is kind of very unrealistic, but I'll say that Rouge came to Earth in an attempt to seek shelter from her dangerous planet, and in the process also get richer jewels. And one of the big reasons Rouge came to Little Planet is to find the time stones, go back in time to fix her planet, and keep time stones in her, like, sort of collection of gems. Meanwhile, Shadow even questions how he's still alive. Now, as for what the Wachowskis are doing, they're actually heading to Little Planet to find the time stones themselves. A lot of the time in the movie is dedicated to exploring the different futures that Eggman and Sonic have created based on their actions. Ultimately, Amy helps Sonic out in the decision to stop messing with the future and instead focus on stopping Eggman in the present. Speaking of Shadow, actually, when he's on Little Planet, we actually get a near identical recreation of that one Sonic Hero scene, where he finds the many versions and copies of himself, the Shadow androids, and now he's sort of questioning his memories because of his whole amnesia thing, and if he even is the real ultimate life form, if he's the real Shadow. And if you haven't been able to tell by now, the film's main theme is focusing on the present and not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. Let's just say that this movie is kind of the first and hopefully only one in the series to have a cliffhanger. Yep, I'm giving this a cliffhanger, and it's a really big one. Like, I'm actually gonna change the entire course of this series, really. Because while I do agree that human characters should have less screen time, I think we need to incorporate the animal characters into a more natural way. We can't just have Sonic constantly switching planets between the movies. So we kind of have to collide them. Now, this will actually be a very slow and sort of natural process, but also kind of sudden in this movie specifically, because the way I'm doing it is that Shadow actually takes the time stones from Sonic and everyone and tries to go back in time to fix the world and fix his memories in the process. But this actually creates an unintended side effect because Sonic, Eggman, and Amy have been traveling through time throughout the course of this entire movie, and them messing with time so much has caused a rift in time and space itself, and now worlds are starting to collide. And Shadow's missing, and I'd say in the post-credit scene, it's Eggman sort of managing to find him. So yeah, that was Sonic Movie 4. Pretty wild ending for a sort of lighthearted story. And Sonic Movie 3 acted like a finale of sorts to the series. Well, actually, actually we haven't seen Sonic Movie 3 yet, but considering that's adapting Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Adventure 2 acts like a finale to the series, anyways. Alright, let's talk about Sonic Movie 5 now. I'd say the film starts off with Knuckles' storyline, actually, with Chaos breaking out of the Master Emerald and starting to attack. And, as you guessed it, most of the plot points are kept the same-ish. However, I will say Amy's story and Sonic's story are trimmed and cut down hard. And Big's story is actually removed, like, entirely. Now, as for the Rift, which I'm pretty sure you're wondering what's going on with that, I'd say that the Rift for now will bring the Chao world to Earth, and thus that will introduce the Chao, and maybe we could actually get the Tikal flashback through that, maybe. Chao would be inside of Gamma instead of a Flicky, because the Flickies aren't introduced yet. Speaking of the Tikal sequence, in the original Sonic Adventure, everyone sees Tikal's backstory and stuff. In this game, I'd say that only Knuckles actually goes through the Tikal sequence, because, you know, it'd be kind of weird to just see, like, every single character go through the Tikal backstory. It'd be repetitive in a movie format. I couldn't really think of a B-plot for the film. It's mostly just kind of multiple plots running at once, you know, which is why I had to remove Big's story, cut down on Amy's story, Sonic's story, and heck, maybe we can even cut down on Knuckles' story, because let's be for real now, all Knuckles' story really amounted to was him finding, like, the Master Emerald shards and seeing his backstory, which he didn't actually react too crazy about seeing his entire tribe die in the original game and stuff. He should be freaking out and asking a bajillion questions. And I feel like that in the movie, he'll actually be asking a bunch of questions to these characters, you know, when he actually sees the spirits and stuff. He'll also be shocked to see how Pachymok really is like, you know? Because, you know, in the Knuckles show, which I'm not really going to talk about that much in this video, his vision of, like, Pachymok was very peaceful when he really wasn't. So I feel like they should acknowledge it in order for it to not be kind of weird. As for the humans, Tom and Maddie will help get the Chaos Emeralds, I guess. Again, I can't really think of anything. The humans are way less involved in this film than the other films. And by the end of the film, Supersonic actually undoes the damage and destruction that Chaos has caused. But in doing so, the Rift actually starts accelerating. And in fact, we actually start to see the effects of the Rift accelerating. Because at the very end of the film, we get introduced to Cream and the Chaotix. Let's say that the Chaotix tries to help Cream find her way back to Vanilla. Let's say that Supersonic, he kind of struggles a lot when fighting Chaos, because he's forced to hold back in order to not accelerate the space-time continuum. As for the post-credit scene, we see Omega being built, and Normally the Sonic movies don't have an end credit scene, but for this one, I'll say that the end credit scene is Metal Sonic being built back together. So yeah, that was the Sonic Adventure adaptation, Sonic Movie 5. Not exactly as crazy of changes compared to 4, and mainly how the Rift is working is, let's say that maybe in like a month the Rift will finish off. And the more that Supersonic uses his power, the more that it messes with time and space itself, basically. As for Shadow, trust me, I will acknowledge him next film. I did not forget about this dude. Now, Sonic Movie 6 is the Heroes adaptation, so it will be the big one, this film. Let's say that the film starts with more of the other world coming to Earth, this being the island where the Chaotix and Cream reside on. So yes, we actually do get our Chaotix introduction now. And speaking of the Chaotix, Knuckles and the Chaotix obviously don't have any history in this film, and it sort of makes sense considering that the Chaotix was kind of retconned in the original game. Like, the Chaotix didn't recognize Eggman at all, so we can just assume that Knuckles Chaotix wasn't canon in the game, so we won't be even, like, remotely touching on it in the films, or adapting it. Oh, and, just a small change, but Knuckles and Sonic banter more in this film, like, in a sort of, like, dude-bro kind of relationship they kind of have going on. This is sort of that way, like, at the end of the film when, at the end of the film, that one scene, I can't name it right now, I'm sorry. Just feels a bit more impactful. And speaking of impactful, Sonic Heroes was a very, very lighthearted story, which was insane because the last game had child murder. And considering that this is the last film in the entire trilogy, let's just say that the film is way more grand and epic than the original game is, you know? More serious than the original game. Which might be hard to do because Team Dark and Team Rose's stories are actually being heavily cut down. But Team Dark's opening is basically the same. This is mainly because a lot of Team Dark's story was kind of covered in, like, Sonic Movie 4. So, yeah. Now then, back to Sonic himself. Him and the gang are actually trying to figure out what the hell to even do about this massive rift that's floating around in the sky. Which, yeah, that's a pretty damn big problem right now. And mainly they can't really exactly come up with a solution. And when we do see Sonic's alter ego, Metal Sonic, wait, why did I say alter ego? When we see Metal Sonic, he's kind of going through an existential crisis like he did in the games. But this time they touch on it way more and explore it more, because you know, I feel like that was a really cool idea, and it was kind of wasted potential that they didn't talk about it that much in the original game. Alright, now back to Team Dark. In those few scenes that Team Dark is in, it mainly revolves around Shadow's character journey of letting go of the past. And maybe we can have it so that way Sonic kind of, like, Sonic or, like, someone tells Shadow about his past, maybe. So that way we don't have to go through the events of Shadow the Hedgehog. Because they are not adapting that game into movie format ever, if we're being honest. That was a product of its time, and we're probably never getting anything like that ever again. Oh, and back to Metal Sonic. Let's say that Metal Sonic actually attacks the new island on Earth and its residents, you know. Sort of just Metal Sonic's kind of on a rampage against these citizens of Earth that have only just arrived. And as for the side plot, let's say that the government is actually trying to figure out what the hell to even do about these new citizens that are in here. Because, you know, a whole entire island just spawning into Earth is kind of a big deal for the government and the world in general. And I can imagine that with these new creatures that have happened to inhabit Earth, there's going to be a lot of debates and stuff. As for the climax of the movie, the rift actually fully finishes, mainly when Supersonic goes to fight Metal Sonic. But this actually kind of happens after they defeat Metal Sonic. So after they defeat Metal Sonic, the climax of the film actually has the rift fully finished, and both of the worlds actually end up colliding due to the space being messed up with the Chaos Emerald. And I know I said that Sonic 4 was kind of like the only movie with a cliffhanger, but this film kind of has a cliffhanger, but also doesn't really have a cliffhanger. Everything is sort of resolved except for the fact that Earth has collided with a new planet. But basically, in the end, it's the ending of the film is kind of hopeful. Maybe we could see like a sort of montage of Gun like helping citizens out. Speaking of which, the actual ending to the film itself could have maybe like Shadow looking at like a Gun sign up form thing, just sort of like a setup to the Sonic 06 adaptation if they ever come around to it. And as for the post-credit scene, we could actually have like Eggman looking at a theme park with curiosity, because my idea is that it sets up Sonic Colors, and Eggman's like, huh, what if I make a theme park? And this, it could kind of be like that. Or maybe actually for the post-credit scene, we could have Eggman sort of researching the Wisps, or even see the Wisp planet. And yeah, that was my vision for the next few Sonic films. Let me know what you think about these ideas for the film. And obviously these are just my ideas. If you have any ideas of your own, make sure to let me know in the comments below.